Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Our panel is already lined up, so let's convene today's summit. And this evening, joining us, Dr. Fadi Esmaeel, former senior staffer at the U.S. Congress, and also, of course, a research fellow at the International Institute for Counterterrorism, political pundit Hananya Naftali, and Yariv Oppenheimer, project director, Two-State Coalition for the Geneva Initiative. Thank you, gentlemen, so very much for joining us this evening. Our main topic today, in the aftermath of the deadly terror weekend in Jerusalem, is a third intifada already kicking in. Let's first cross live to I-24 News correspondent Pia Steckelbach, standing by for us in Jerusalem, in the Neve Yaakov neighborhood where the synagogue massacre took place on Friday evening. Pia, the house of the terrorists demolished. Meanwhile, many of those arrested have been released. Bring us up to speed. What can you tell us?
Right, Eli, I'm standing here right across from the synagogue where Friday evening's tragic attack has happened. The Palestinian Khairi al-Qam shot dead 7 people right here on this street. Now, as you mentioned, his family members have been arrested. He himself has been shot dead. Now, this attack has come after, on Thursday alone, 9 people have been killed in Jenin in Israeli raids. Around 30 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces or in clashes with Israeli forces in the West Bank and East Jerusalem this month alone. Now, on Saturday morning, we saw another attack conducted by an only 13-year-old Palestinian in the neighborhood of Silwan, very much adjacent to the old city of East Jerusalem. Now, he shot 2 Israelis, a father and a son. One of them is still in the hospital. Now, the 13-year-old has also been injured, but this is an unprecedented incident. The Security Cabinet has met today and has decided that the house of his family is about to be sealed off in order to be demolished later. And this is an unprecedented incident indeed, because usually this is only a procedure when an attacker indeed managed to kill Israelis. But in this case, this is only one of the new findings or measures that are going to be taken probably in Israeli politics. This will also now be taking place when Palestinian attackers manage to injure Israelis. Now, other measures that Israeli politicians are now about to take are, for example, strengthening settlement activity in the West Bank, making it easier for Israeli citizens to obtain license for weapons, and also to make it easier to demolish homes of attackers and of the families of attackers, and, for example, revoke social security and also residence permits for them. And this is causing great discussions within Israeli society.
And speaking of these discussions, Pia Steckelbach, I-24 News correspondent in Jerusalem, thank you very much for this. Gentlemen, let's get to it. As always, we begin with our 30 seconds round each to lay out your initial stance. Will the Benjamin Netanyahu government be able to change the security situation? Dr. Esmaeel, please take the lead. Your 30 seconds are on.
The short answer is yes, for a short period of time. This is the cycle that I've seen dozens of times in the past. I assume we're going to see dozens of times into the future. Granted, every time we do things that we call new things, but they're basically variations on a theme. So, yeah, it is possible that a harsh reaction will bring some kind of short-term calm.
Hananya Naftali, your take?
I think that definitely this new administration is already taking action. We saw that they sealed the house of the terrorist. Usually this procedure takes months or long weeks, but it is happening already. Illegal homes in East Jerusalem were demolished. They're about to allow more citizens to carry arms. So it is definitely one thing that I can say about the Netanyahu administration is that if the Iranian regime, the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, Hezbollah are scared and angry with him, then definitely he's doing the right thing, leading through strength.
And last but not least, Yariv Oppenheimer, your thoughts?
Yeah, with all due respect, to seal the house of the family of the terrorist is not a real change of policy. And this is not a real threat to the Palestinians. And the interesting thing here is that as long as this government will keep its promise to show strong hand against all Palestinians, cut in relationship with the Palestinian Authority, the situation will just escalate more and there will be less security. Netanyahu understood it. And this is why he is working in order to calm down the situation. And he's using very minor steps in order to show that he's doing something.
Yes, and on that note, gentlemen, let's feel free to interact with one another. Definitely not Netanyahu's first rodeo, but to an extent, the first time he himself is the left-wing mark of his own coalition. But before we discuss the political elements here, I do want us to begin our conversation on the issue of guns. Will more guns in the streets mean more security or more violence? Hananya Naftali, please take the lead.
I think that definitely, because we have seen civilians who carried arms stopping terrorists and eliminating them. We've seen this in Beersheba, stopping the terrorists from his shooting spree. We've seen this at the city of David at the entrance. So definitely I think that the situation is very different from the United States, because here, although the political turmoil and everything is taking place, but I think that at the end of the day, Israelis are united against this enemy called radical Islamism, and carrying arms will definitely bring more confidence and security, I believe.
Yariv.
There is a price to pay for that. It's true that when you got more arms, so in the case of a terrorist attack, you got more people to react. But on the other hand, you have more chances that people are going to lose their guns. Maybe it's going to be stolen. Maybe they are going to shoot at the wrong guy. Maybe they are going to shoot some other people when they are fighting them, or even within the family, cases of severe violence. When you have more guns, you have more violence. And the outcome of that will be maybe more damaging than just to have the guns and to keep us safe from the terrorists. And we need to remember that in most of the cases, in a very short time, there was either a soldier or policeman or citizen with a gun that shot dead the terrorists. So usually there is not a lack of guns. You cannot have guns everywhere. And if you will have guns everywhere, so you will see many innocent people being killed because someone doesn't know how to aim, or because someone thought that this is a terrorist, but eventually it was just an ordinary citizen. And we have two cases like that not long ago here inside Israel.
Dr. Esmaeel, obviously not the same circumstances or climate as the one in the U.S., but what do you think? More guns, more security, or more violence?
Guns are tools. They don't think for themselves. They don't shoot themselves. My point is, it depends on guns in the hands of whom. If we had a gun culture in Israel, like there is in America, especially in the southern states, and if we had an organization like the NRA that can provide a direction, training, some sort of support to people that carry guns. So in the hands of the right people with the right structure, the guns can definitely add to security. I've seen it. I had first-hand experience with that in several states in the U.S. But it is not the gun itself. It is the whole complex. Who carries it? What kind of training they have? What kind of?
But once you got the gun, the team. A gun in the beginning of the play will shot eventually. When you have the gun, so the chances that someone will use it in an inappropriate way is there, because he might lose his patient, and he can and temper, and he can kill someone in the street, or and things like that happen. And I'm not talking about political violence. I'm not talking about a case in which Israeli will feel that maybe Palestinians that demonstrate against him are going to risk their life, and then he will use the gun in order to kill them and just escalate the situation like happened in Lod. So, having more guns will have more violence.
Mr. Oppenheimer, we can what if ourselves forever, but the bottom line is that these kind of cases talk about, when studied in a very systematic way, not by emotions, but in a systematic way. I've given all the disclaimers. It has to be the right people that have the background required, and be inside some sort of a structure. I gave the very clear disclaimer. Yes, also somebody who drives a car can hit somebody and kill them. Those, if you take in terms of statistics, what you talk about does not happen that much. Actually, it's pretty rare. Under those
statistically, I know that 2 Israeli citizens that they were not terrorists were shot dead by a fellow Israeli because they thought that they might be terrorists. So we have such a case.
Yeah, that's true. And we have also many Israelis. True. And we have many Israelis. I agree. And there was many Israelis also that have been attacked by other Israelis physically, not by guns, because they looked Arab, because they had dark skin and they thought that they were Arabs and they were attacked. We've seen this.
No, but this is reality, Yariv. Yeah.
So this is reality. So us as a security people, go ahead. Sorry.
I have to add that I think that we're not shedding enough light on the Palestinian aspect, because what happened Saturday morning is that a 13-year-old Palestinian boy held the gun, aimed it at a Jewish family, and opened fire on them. Now, for the sake of our audience, I just want to raise the question, what did you do when you were 13? Clearly not thinking about that. Given the fact that I served myself in the Israeli army and I saw Palestinian teenagers carrying out attacks, it just, first of all, breaks my heart that that's how they wanted to end their lives. But also to shed light on that, on the Palestinian side, and the fact that they're radicalizing their hearts and minds to hate Jews, to carry out such attacks. They reward this by paying salaries. But on top of that, the examples that Yariv and Dr. Fadi gave, I think that they don't represent the reality in Israel, because more the things that Yariv said, because 2 cases, they don't represent 9 million people. And obviously, it's highly restricted. Not everyone is going to get a weapon.
Until now, it's not so easy to get guns. So this is why It's not 9 million. When it will be so easy to get guns, so the number of incidents like that will rise up. And for your question about being 13 years old, I'm asking you, when were you 13 years old? Did you live under occupation? Did you live under the control of the Israelis? Did you feel humiliated every day? Did you see your family being humiliated every day? We cannot judge the Palestinians, and we cannot think that they are like us, because they are living in totally different reality. And when you want to find a solution to the problem, you need to understand what is the problem. And the problem is not the textbooks, and the problem is not the speeches in the mosque. The problem is the reality, the occupation. And when you are living your childhood as humiliated under the Israeli control, under the Israeli occupation, so the outcome of that will be hatred. There is an extreme situation in which a 13-year-old used guns, and I think it's shocking. It's terrible. It's strategy also for him. And this is something that we need to change. Not guns will change it, but some kind of a political process, some kind of understanding that using just force will bring more force in the other side.
Yariv, I have to say that the base of your answer is completely nonsense, because what occupation are you talking about? Hebron used to be the capital of the kingdom of Judea. Nablus used to be a Levite city. Bethlehem was where King David was anointed as king over the Israelites. So until it was taken by Arabs, and now it is under Palestinian occupation. So you would probably push the agenda that, Israeli settlements are the obstacle to peace. Not at all. It is Palestinian terrorism and the Palestinian Authority that radicalizes the minds of the young Palestinians, whom I love, and I have no problem or hate towards them. And when I was 13, actually, I had love for them, not hate.
Okay, gentlemen, hold your thoughts right there, because we must take a quick break, but obviously we have so much more to unpack. Dr. Fadi Esmaeel, Hananya Naftali, and Yariv Oppenheimer, you're staying with us. A few minutes break, and we're back with the summit. Don't go away. Welcome back to the summit. Still with us, a political pundit, Hananya Naftali, Yariv Oppenheimer, the project director of the Two-State Coalition, the Geneva Initiative, and Dr. Fadi Esmaeel, of course, former U.S. Congress senior staffer and research fellow at the International Institute for Counterterrorism. Thank you, gentlemen, for staying with us. We're also staying on topic, but before we get back to our conversation, let's take a listen to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the opening of today's cabinet session, discussing the potential measures Israel is going to take from this point onwards. Let's take a listen.
Yesterday, the Cabinet approved a series of steps in the fight against terrorism. On the one hand, we will step up the deployment and activity of the security forces. On the other, we will exact a price from those who carry out terrorist attacks and their supporters. This morning, we sealed the house of the terrorist who carried out the reprehensible attack in Jerusalem, and later on, his house will be demolished. We decided to revoke the national insurance rights of families that support terrorism, and we will discuss further steps today, including revoking identity cards and residency of families of terrorists that support terrorism. We will also expand and expedite the issue of weapons permits to thousands of Israeli civilians, including those in the rescue services. We are not seeking escalation, but we are prepared for any possibility. Our answer to terrorism is an iron fist and a powerful, swift and precise response.
Okay, another quick fire round. Let's get to it. Is the Israeli response too harsh or not harsh enough? Yariv Oppenheimer, your 30 seconds are on.
This government actually need to collide with reality, and it's very easy to be in the opposition and to say, just give us the force and we will act differently and we will change the rules of the game. Eventually what we saw is that the same policy, it's just cosmetic. But there is one major difference, and this is the cut of cooperation, security cooperation with the Palestinian Authority. This is already a price that the Israeli security is paying, that we don't have a moderate partner in the other side that will help us to calm down the flames.
Dr. Esmaeel, your thoughts?
I think it's somewhat more of the same, maybe with the much harsher rhetoric. They will change a few things. They will add a few new measures. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do. What else can they do? Because we've heard so much from the two war heroes, Ben Gvir and Smotrich. I want to see what they're going to do. So far, they haven't surprised me. I'm very underwhelmed. We'll see. Maybe they will surprise us. So far.
Hananya Naftali, are you too underwhelmed?
No, I think that we are still seeing how it is being evolved and developed. But I think that the question should be different. It is what's the Palestinian leaders are doing, because so far they're doing nothing, not condemning and not doing anything. On the contrary, they're encouraging this, inciting more terror and hatred. And in fact, it is not it's the existence of Israel that is their problem. The fact that Jews are being here. So I think that we are going to see more. And I wish that Palestinian leaders would do more for the sake of peace.
And from that point exactly, let's open up the discussion. Hananya, should annexation be the response to terror?
In my opinion, I think that the response, the best answer to terror attacks is to build more communities, establish more families, build more. It is our ancestral homeland. I mean, if we go to the historical argument, we're gonna win. I'm not for this argument, but I'm not for arguing, but I am for finding a solution, because they are here, we are here, and I want to live in peace. I was born and raised here. As an Israeli Jew, I do want to see peace, but on the other hand, we're not going to compromise on our security. Just like late Prime Minister Golda Meir said, if the Arabs will lay down their weapons, we will see peace. But if the Israelis will lay down their weapons, there will be no Israel. Unfortunately, this reality has not changed, because they do have a problem with Jews living in Israel. It is not after 48 that we have seen those terror attacks. There was the Hebron massacre in 1929. It's the existence of Jews in their ancestral homeland. And in my opinion, we should not submit to this and surrender.
I will say move on. We are not in the 19th century. We are much further forward, and we need to think about the reality of today. The Palestinians, the only thing that they are demanding is equality, that they will be citizens either in their own state or they will be citizens in the state of Israel. So if you feel that the West Bank belongs to you and East Jerusalem belongs to you, and you think that this is part of the state of Israel, give them full citizenship. By the way, this will be the end of the Zionist movement. Therefore, the real reason for what we are seeing is the issue of rights. And when we are taking all the decisions for them, this will be the outcome. Now, the idea that if we will build more settlements and we will make this conflict even more complicated to solve this will bring us security. This is totally out of reality. We see that settlements are not giving security, they are costing security. We need more soldiers, we have more clashes with the Palestinians. Just see what happened in the last outpost of Yatar. So many Palestinians killed in demonstration around it. This didn't serve the Israeli security interests. It serves the interest of the people that want to annex the West Bank without giving the Palestinian citizenship, meaning to have an apartheid regime in the West Bank forever. This is not an Israeli interest, and I hope that if the government will not understand it, the world will understand it and will stop Israel from doing this terrible mistake.
Dr. Esmaeel, is there a security solution to the security situation?
Sorry, what's the question?
Is there a security solution to the security situation?
Well, if this was a security situation, I would say yes. We've talked about some of the tactical responses when we talked about guns and so on. But obviously now we have arisen for the different level to geopolitics. And you are asking a very good question in this segment, the question of annexation. And I have to say that the issue of annexation always confuses me, because it seems that the people who push for it, I'm not saying if they're right or wrong, they never do it. I mean, here we are. We have the government that can do it. There's nothing that's stopping them. And I'm really curious to see. I'm not being funny or facetious. I'm really curious to see if they're going to do this, because if they don't, then all of their ideology means nothing. Because that's the basis of their ideology. There's no other thing, no other raison d'etre to these views of the world. If they are not going to do this now, then what is their solution? So I'm not trying to say I'm always genuinely confused, just like I was confused by Prime Minister Netanyahu's response to the issue with the International Court. He was upset that the International Court might say that Israel now controls the West Bank in perpetuity. Isn't that the ideology that he goes for? I mean,
Hananya,
I wish these guys make up their mind already. Are we going to annex or not? And then if you say yes, then let's figure out what we're going to do with it. One of the two, yes or no.
I think that then the question comes down to, to a solution, to, living side by side peacefully. But I do have to say, for the sake of our audience, that the Palestinians already govern themselves by themselves. And actually more than 100,000 of them come to Israel to work. When I visited the Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem, I've seen several Palestinians also from Gaza receiving medical treatment. So they do know who to turn to when they need help. But unfortunately, it is their society that radicalizes their minds, and we cannot put up with this. So obviously,
but Hananya, in the short time we have left, question being a full-on right-wing government in the rule as we speak. Are we going to see right-wing policies on the ground or just rhetoric?
I sure hope so, because to me, this right-wing thing that people call it is the love of the country and protecting it and safeguarding the future of families. I myself lived in this community called Kadim that we had to evacuate in north of Samaria near Jenin. So I lived in this reality, and I know that there are Palestinians that really genuinely love peace and Israel. Unfortunately, they cannot express it out loud. I myself will continue to advocate for peace, and as an Israeli, I don't hate my neighbors. I will start to love them. I just hope that we'll find a good way to make it work.
Yes, well, I am sure all of our panelists will agree with that. We have to end our conversation right here. Hananya Naftali, Yariv Oppenheimer, and Dr. Fadi Esmaeel, thank you, as always, for your time and insight. We appreciate it, and we will, of course, see you back on the show.